Hello, welcome to our SDG4 seminar, University of Uvascula. My name is Rati Adiputri from the organizing team of this event. In this house space, you find information that you need regarding this seminar. If you have questions later on, please write down in the chat box down at the video here or the discussion post. And our student volunteers will collect your question and to be sent to the moderator in the screen. Maybe not in this opening session, but later on as well. And for practicality, please also register yourself in thematic session before 12. And today we start our seminar with the opening session. I'm happy to welcome Professor Maria-Leena Laakso, the Vice Rector of the University of Uvascula, and Member of European Parliament, Henna Virkkunen, the Chair of the Finnish National Commission to UNESCO. But this session will be chaired by Dr. Said Zuma from the State University of Zanzibar, Tanzania. Mr. Said Zuma, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. I would like to also welcome everybody to this SDG4 seminar, Inclusion and Education. And in this session, we have two speakers. So each speaker will have between 10 and 12 minutes. First of all, I would like to welcome Professor Maria-Leena Laakso from the University of Uvascula. Please welcome.
Thank you. Dear participants of this SDG4 seminar, once again, I think it is at least the 7th time in succession I have been given the honor to convey these opening words in this event, which I very deeply appreciate. In most of the previous occasions, we have shared this opening session in the light and spacious staircase of Ruusupuisto building here at the University of Uvascula. In those events, I have truly enjoyed seeing you all, the culturally and nationally rich group of people sitting together and sharing the deep enthusiasm and interest in ever-evolving and multi-layered aspects of education. This year, when all our countries are affected by the COVID-19 virus and we are forced to restrict gatherings and traveling, we are sharing this opening session and the whole seminar in a virtual mode. Although it is not the same as sitting together and seeing each other face to face, the crucial thing is that despite the physical distance, we are connected to one another via sharing the same interest and passion for global issues of education. That is what really matters, I hope. Dear audience, I've been told that we have more than 400 participants attending the seminar this year. Great number, isn't it? The best thing is that you are coming from very different geographical corners, for example, from Indonesia, China, Ghana, Tanzania, United States, Latin America, Europe. I hope you all feel warmly welcome to this joint event. The theme of the seminar this year is inclusion and education, and one of the key points in thoroughly planned and interesting program of our meeting is the official launch of the Global Education Monitoring Report. In other sessions, we also have very prominent and highly appreciated speakers and presenters to share their special expertise and knowledge of the intriguing and thought-provoking theme of the seminar. For example, in this very opening session, we have the great joy of hearing interesting insights from our Ministry of European Parliament, Henna Virkkunen, who also acts as a chair of the Finnish National Commission to UNESCO. So great to have you here. On my behalf, I want to address warm thanks to all speakers, presenters, and participants for your most valuable share in our important event, and use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to all of you in charge of organizing this year's SDG4 seminar. Every year, the role of our international students have been very critical, so my warm thanks go especially to you. UNESCO's 2020 GIM report addresses inclusion in education, drawing our attention to all those excluded from education because of their background or ability. I'm originally trained as developmental psychologist, and in that field of science, we have learned how very basic human need it is to feel connected, have a sense of belonging, most deeply to other human beings, but also to places and material aspects of one's environment. We also know that being excluded, not having possibilities to join and share, feel part of the group, or not having opportunities to fulfill oneself has serious and long-lasting individual consequences. Education is a fundamental human right and is indispensable for the achievement of other sustainable development goals, empowerment of girls, fight against climate change, inequality, extreme poverty, and so on. So the very fundamental aim challenging us all is to work together and work efficiently to ensure that everyone has the access to quality education. In relation to this aim, we are right now facing a very demanding situation. The coronavirus pandemic has affected different spheres of our lives across the world. And one area where it has hit very harshly is education. In the spring 2020, UNESCO reported that altogether 165 countries have shut down all the schools in the country. And in addition to that, many other countries had closed schools from some age groups or for some districts. In March this year, the statistics showed that over 1.52 billion children and young people are no longer in school buildings, educated in school buildings. The lockdown of schools has meant increase in inequality and exclusion. In many countries, teaching and learning has been organized online, but the access to these possibilities and arenas is not at all equally distributed worldwide. In addition, in countries where a big proportion of adults are illiterate, the parents do not have the means to support their children in schoolwork, and not to mention educate the children themselves. In addition, children, especially young girls, are much more prone to various acts of violence and sexual abuse, since they are not in classrooms or under protection of the teachers and school personnel during the days when the parents are working. One of the most severe concerns is that the children who now are left out of school have possibly no way to go back there when we in some future return to post-corona time. Fortunately, many international organizations, UNESCO in front, have done valuable work to organize support to the countries whose educational systems and schooling have suffered the most from global pandemic. Digital platforms, materials, software, and mobile applications have been published, and in addition, support, guidance, and counseling services have been arranged, and new funding instruments and foundations established. All these actions here mentioned in relation to pandemic are also elements in the more broad process where the countries around the world act together in order to solve the global learning crisis. One very crucial aspect of this learning crisis is that the quality education is not open and accessible to all. Before the pandemic, there were over 260 billion school-age children who did not go to school. Significant number of them were excluded from education because of their background or ability. Here in Finland, I'm happy to be part of two working groups which both strive to step up Finland's global role in education and hence promote quality education for all. The first group, Globally Responsible Funding Program, operates in higher education sector under the Ministry of Education and Culture, and according to its name, aims to create stable funding program so that our education, research, and innovation resources can be more efficiently utilized. utilized, for example, to support teacher education, as teachers have found to have a very critical role in welcoming and teaching all students, regardless of their background, ability, and identity, and also support the sustainable education for children with special needs in the developing countries. The other working group where I have the honor to be involved is called Education Sector in Educational Cooperation. It operates under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and gathers together different stakeholders from various sectors of our society. The mission of that team is to coordinate and follow the various action, deeds, and achievements of different institutions and organizations so that the operations are more influential and powerful in solving the global learning crisis. Dear participants, although I just stated about some projects and working groups where we here in Finland are aiming to promote achieving the SDG4 goal and hence ensuring quality education for all, it doesn't mean, unfortunately, that educational inclusion is a challenge accomplished in our country. It still is a challenge, and we definitely need joint actions, good cooperation, and mutual support from other countries to be more successful in this important educational mission. In 2019, the Finnish Education Evaluation System published a report on the way to better learning, good practices for integrating immigrants to education. The aim behind this very important project was to learn from the other countries how to make our schools and education institutions more inclusive to immigrant students. The report clearly showed that there is so much we can learn from other countries, but practices, and that there are plenty of instruments and tools and principles which support building a truly inclusive education system. The good practices reported in this publication touch the versatile of different factors, starting from national-wide frameworks and principles in educational policy and quality insurance systems to promote inclusion, extending to indicators of children's and youth's well-being, educational programs for school leaders and teachers, and different virtual materials and channels to support students of immigrant backgrounds. Although in this specific report, the practices and instruments were discussed in relation to integrating the immigrant students in educational institutions and preventing their exclusion, all these practices and principles are totally exploitable when we consider other groups of children and youth in risk of exclusion, such as children with special needs and handicaps. Dear audience, before I end my opening words, one very short notion. Last year, in this very seminar, I quoted governmental advisor Simon Anholt, who started the Good Generation Act and encouraged us to start the big conversation where we jointly agree on key values of global citizenship, commit to these, and define our educational goals and curricula based on these. Maybe our mission this year is to have big conversation relating to frameworks, principles, and practices we need to develop and then systematically apply in order to promote inclusion in all our educational institutions. Simon Anholt also stated that eventually we are just one tribe who needs to sit around the same campfire to attain mutual agreements and commit to shared action plans on these critical matters. This year, GIM report declares in quite same mode that we need to sing from the same song sheet as we try to build more inclusive education. So let these beautiful metaphors lead our way as we start this SDG4 2020 seminar and begin to create a culturally and thematically rich and powerful song sheet guiding us to build more sustainable and inclusive education. I wish you all truly inspiring seminar days, lively conversations, and full backpack of new and stimulating ideas to bring back with you when the seminar days are over. Thank you very much. Side, your microphone is muted. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Maria Elena Naxo, the Vice Rector of the University of Jyväskylä. And now I would like to welcome Henna Virkkunen, who is Chair of the Finnish National Commission to UNESCO. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody. It's a great honor for me to attend this event as the chair of the Finnish National Commission at UNESCO. This UNESCO's annual Global Education Monitoring Report with a focus in inclusion could not be more timely, I think. We are witnessing an unprecedented disruption in education on global scale right now. We know that 94% of all learners globally, 1.6 trillion pupils and students have experienced the school closures at some point during the pandemic. And according to UNESCO, hundreds of millions of learners are still today in distant learning settings. At the same time, we are facing challenges because, as Vice Rector Lax already mentioned in her opening words, only half of the world's population, they have access to internet or computer. And in the least developing countries, only 1 out of 10 households. So we know that we are facing big challenges with this possibilities the pupils are having around the world. So the situation is very worrying, and access to education as a fundamental human right, it's being challenged at an unprecedented scale. And to add, the crisis will likely accelerate the already existing inequalities. For example, UNESCO's monitoring report reveals that 40% of low and lower middle income countries, they have not taken any measures to support learners at risk of exclusion during the pandemic. And all this comes at times where we already had a global learning crisis, already before this COVID-19, because almost 260 million children and youth were out of the school before the pandemic, and almost 800 million adults were illiterate. According to UNESCO, more than half of the children and youth globally do not learn the basics in reading, writing, or mathematics, even when they go to school. So half of the children, they don't learn the basic reading, writing, or mathematics. And of course, this is very worrying. The UN Secretary General is rightly warning us about the general catastrophe. The sad thing is that there was also a global funding gap in education before the crisis. According to IMF, only 37 countries out of 196 worldwide have included education and skills in their national stimulus packages. Globally, less than 1% of all stimulus allocations covered education. Less than 1%. It's not enough, not at all. So there is urgent need to advocate for education. SDG4 needs to remain high on political agendas all over the world. SDG4 is the way to build back greener and more inclusive societies. In the same time, I'm happy that Finland is one of the countries who has not neglected education during the crisis. It's crucial that we are making additional investments now in measures to support learning and well-being at every level of education, from early childhood education and care to higher education. Just today, in the same time when we are having this event and seminar, also a political declaration will be adopted by the heads of states and ministers of education at the Global Education Meeting by UNESCO. The declaration not only emphasized the need to increase investments in education, but also underlines the importance of ensuring that equity, equality, and inclusion remain at the heart of COVID-19 efforts of education. The crisis is also calling us to seriously ponder about the future of education, how to make the entire system more resilient. What role does the technology play in education? And how do we narrow the digital gaps and ensure that no one is left behind? I hope that this event will also contribute to this. UNESCO is preparing a global report on futures of education, and I encourage all of you to take part in an open consultation on UNESCO's webpage. The work is chaired by the President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Sahle-Work Swede. I also believe that the experiences of Finland will have a lot to contribute in global discussions when we speak about the futures of education, because the disruption has made it evident that education system with flexibility and ability to offer hybrid solutions, which can be adjusted to better suit local and individual needs, they are prone to more resilient. And I think it's important to underline also that teachers, they continue to play a key role, as no technology can ever replace a teacher. And in Finland, we are very happy that our teachers, they are, in our system, they are supported and they are highly educated and have a lot of responsibility, but also freedom in their daily work, always. So many were using a diversity of learning environments, also digital ones, already before the pandemic. And this was of great importance in the transition to distance learning. Dear participants, to conclude, I think now more than ever, we need to focus on equity, equality, and inclusion in order to ensure that no one is being left behind. I wish you all very fruitful event, and I hope you have inspiring discussion during this seminar.
Thank you very much, Henna Virkkunen. We really need to focus on equity, equality, and inclusion. And at this moment, I would like to hand this over to Ratif Adiputri. She's not here?
Yes. So,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Maria-Leena Laakso and Henna Virkkunen for this inspiring speech. Now we're ending this opening session and we'll come to the launch of a global monitoring report in UNESCO soon at 9:30. Yeah. So see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Henna and Professor Laakso.